Jesus, all the way. I'll forever trust in you. Jesus, all the way. JC247.
If the word helpmeet as found in the book of Genesis means that the woman was created to help me eat, then certainly Eve didn't do a fantastic job. Because look what we've gotten ourselves into after she helped Adam eat of the fruit of the forbidden tree. Well, I'm sure it does not mean helpmeet, and we have some married women, if you please, who are going to help us understand the differences between being a helpmeet and being a man. And I'm happy that you have joined us today. And I want to start with you, Shirla. And we are also here supported by our counselor, resident counselor, I should have made mention of you, Sister Myrna Riley Devines. Shirla, what are some of the basic or fundamental characteristics of a man as far as you're concerned?
All right, characteristics of a man. First, manner in which a man communicates. And let's go directly to how he solves problems, or as he relates to problems versus that of a woman. A woman loves to share her problems, whereas the man, because of his independence, he looks for the solution. He doesn't speak much about what the issues are.
That's right.
He just finds the solution and he moves forward. Whereas we as women, we love to speak about the problem.
Say it again? Sorry, okay.
We love to speak about it. I discuss it, we share.
All right.
All right. Sometimes we even share with people who may not even be able to give us a solution to the problem, but the important thing is that we are sharing.
Very good. What about you, Abby?
Yes, men like to share, to solve their problems on their own, while the women like to share.
Julie?
That's true, but when I look at the characteristics of a man, I look at the provider, protector aspect of it.
You want a man who could provide for you and protect
well,
you.
yes, and yes.
Yes.
I need to know that I have somebody I can depend on, I have a shoulder I can lean on, that there's someone there who is able to see about his family. So I look at the role as protector, provider.
Munel.
When I think of the characteristics of a man, I think about someone who is constant, my rock, so to speak.
Good. Sister Myrna Riley Devines, happy to have you on set again. What is it that makes a man desire a woman? Is it something physiological? Are there some chemicals within the body that would sort of cause a man to say, what is it? What is it?
Well, one of the first things is the physical aspect, the physical attraction that one has. However, but that does not always translate into a desire to move beyond that stage. You know, when persons reach puberty, they develop apocrine glands in the armpits, around the nipples, and the groin area. And they develop what is known as a scent print. Right? However, However, more than that, psychologists also say that persons develop what is called a love map. So there are certain qualities and certain characteristics that you tell yourself, I am looking for this in the opposite sex, in the next person. And therefore, even though you may be physically attracted to the person, if those qualities, and those qualities oftentimes are based on your value system. And if those qualities don't line up, then the desire really just dissipates. It doesn't go beyond that, because this is not someone that I can move forward with. And you look at qualities like your ability to respect, your ability to love, your ability to appreciate. You look at qualities such as honesty and integrity. From a Christian standpoint, qualities such as your commitment to God. So you have a list of qualities that persons say that, listen, for me to move beyond, for my desire to grow and strengthen for this person must have these qualities that I am looking for.
So one of the pieces of advice I suppose you would give to a woman who's searching for a man is make sure you find who you are first.
Find who you are first and have your value system established. And for Christian youngsters, I say, listen, your value system must be based on what the Bible says, what the characteristic that Christ has established for you. You know, I often say to people, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all other things shall be added unto you. And therefore, you look for what are those qualities, because I'm not going in as a half of a person. I'm going in as a whole person. So therefore, I need to make sure that I understand who I am and what I'm looking for, and therefore it helps me move along.
Beautiful. Well, all of you are married, but inclusive of the person to whom you're married, what are some of the traits that make you proud of the man that you're with, or of men that you're with? And I don't mean it in a negative sense. But what are some of the things? I like a man who does what, or who is what. Shola, I'm coming back to you, because your man was proud of you. So you got to represent now.
My man. When my man stands by me, for example, sometimes I have different functions in public. Once he is there and he shows that he is he approves of what I'm doing, it doesn't matter what the rest of the world think. Knowing that he is in my corner, he is supporting me, and he's giving me the hurrah to go forward, girl, I'm behind you. Man, he'd get anything when we get back home.
Please don't fill in the blanks. What about you, Abby?
Okay, in addition to being supportive, he should be responsible and God-fearing.
Yes,
I concur with that. And, some men may be supportive and in the forefront. So, like in Shirley's case, her husband may be up in front and you may be seeing that he's supported.
Right.
But you can also support me quietly. You can tell me, you go, girl, go there this evening and make me proud. And once I know that he's around, then things are fine.
Munel, I like a man who...
I like a man who is trustworthy, reliable, dependable. That is what does it for me.
Good. What about you, Munel?
But in addition to that, a man who has self-control, because one of the challenges we have in relationships these days is the whole issue of faithfulness, fidelity. And the bottom line is, if a man has self-control, it sort of guards him against that. But it's not just self-control. The other issue that affects relationship these days is the issue of abuse. And if a man is able to control himself and control his emotions, then you can have some improvement in those areas.
Okay.
So self-control is going to be very, very important.
Okay.
You don't just act because you feel like it,
Right.
or you don't just speak. Whatever comes to your mind comes through your mouth.
Okay, good.
That sort
Good.
of thing. Because words cut, words hurt.
You mentioned self-control and abuse, and none of those acts, or lack of it thereof, can take place without touching. There is positive touch, I suppose, and there is negative touch. Could you help us to appreciate the value of touch in general?
Yes. I think a lot of persons in the home, and it's not just about spouses now, but even with our children, I think we underestimate the importance of touch. Touch gives life. Touch enhances your mental, physical, and emotional health. And as a matter of fact, touch also helps to build your immune system. Dasha Keltner in 2010 says that we basically underestimate, or we don't give much credence to a touch, a pat on the back, a caress of the hand. But there was also research that was done by Tiffany Fields on preterm, that's babies born before the 9-month period. And what it showed is that those babies, those preterm babies who were exposed to touch, to 15-minute touch about 3 times for the day. So that's 3 15-minute segments of touch therapy for the day. 5 to 10 days, within a 5 to 10 day period, showed a 47% more increase in body weight than those who were just exposed as it related to just the basic medical care. Touch as well communicates compassion. It communicates trust. It communicates affection.
Right.
But more than that, trust also helps to build bonds.
Right.
Other aspect is that trust helps to reduce stress. It actually soothes your cardiovascular, that's your heart and your blood vessel system.
Okay.
So it soothes that system, and it helps to reduce, relieve blood pressure. You will find someone who is quite stressed and goes for a body massage. Something like that. That person comes out quite relaxed, the blood pressure reduces, etc. But on the love side, touch releases oxytocin, which is known as the love hormone. So you see, a lot of time men focus on sexual relations, and you wonder, why is it that we're not getting what we're looking for as a man?
Especially
The
as I touch
bottom
you.
line is the touch is missing. If you put that touch in and release that oxytocin, which is that love hormone, brother, you got it going. So,
So every time a man touches the woman, he could expect not just oxytocin.
Not necessarily. You see, the bottom line is touch doesn't necessarily have to lead to anything sexual. What men need to understand is that your woman needs you to touch her without looking for anything in return.
How do we know the difference?
Just to touch, to say, you can come in from work tired. Good?
Right.
And I know that you've been tired, and I can give you a foot massage.
All right.
It does a lot, especially if your work requires you to stand all day.
Right.
You've been out there stressed out, I can give you a massage. I may not be able to do it good, but the simple act of touching you, caressing your neck, tells you that, listen, I'm helping you to calm down, I'm helping you to relax for the evening, etc. A hug before I go through the door says that it doesn't matter what you face today.
Right.
I'm in your corner and you'll be fine.
Wow.
The touch is really quite powerful. And so it helps you to face things. So we need to touch more.
Some of you are going home to be touched. Let's move on. But somebody mentioned earlier that one of the characteristics you look for in a man is the whole question of protection and stuff. And sometimes in protecting, that security comes from touching.
Yes.
Right? But of course, you would want to know that the man who secures you has good hygiene. That's all.
Oh, definitely. For me, you see a man who pays attention to his physical appearance. Yes.
Oh, you got your animated sister.
Very much so. I mean, you must look after yourself.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with a man getting a pedicure and getting a manicure, going for a facial, because he has to look good.
And
If you have to stand by me, you must look good. And those hands have to touch me, Mrs. Devines, and those feet has to touch my feet.
Right.
To make sure they are looking good and feeling good and smelling good.
And personally, I believe men who do those things to me, they appeal to me more because they tell me they are taking care of themselves. They think highly of themselves. And if they can think so highly of themselves and we are together, then they will think highly about me too, You care about you, you care about me.
Mona, let's come back to you. Would you think, or do you believe that a lot of the misunderstandings within a relationship between male and female comes from a lack of understanding the differences between the two sexes, two genders?
Yes, to some extent, and it also depends a whole lot on communication and how we communicate those differences. Because, face it, men and women think differently.
Sure about that.
And it's from a biological makeup as well. Because when studies of the brain were done, what it showed is that, listen, the men process things more from the left side of their brain. They're more logical in terms of how they process things. Women tend to use both sides of their brain. And therefore, because they do that, it means that their language skills are increased. Women, therefore, like to talk a lot.
We know that.
And they're also emotional
Say it again.
creatures.
Say it
Yes,
again.
they talk plenty. They like to share. And
What does they call it? Sharing.
it's not all women, It's not
Yes.
all women. But the majority
Right.
of women will find that talk. Men don't talk so much. And women like to know that, listen, when I'm talking to you, I have your attention and you're listening. So therefore, if I'm talking to you and you're focused on the television and say, I'm hearing
No,
you.
you were hearing you.
Well, it annoys. It annoys. I expect, and women expect that if you are going to show me that you're listening to me, then I need to have your undivided attention.
I could be watching and
And
still
therefore,
not focusing on what you're saying.
well, that's true. But at least your physical thing says that I am looking at you, I am paying some attention to you, and therefore I have some interest in terms of what you're saying.
I feel I'm
And in
outnumbered here.
terms-
What's wrong with it?
And in terms of even how they process, the other thing is what's important to women. Women want to feel loved.
Right.
They want to feel appreciated. They want men to compliment them.
Right.
You know what it is to put on something and look nice, and you walk past and you come back, nothing. But when you step out there, everybody else compliments you
Right.
in terms of how you look. So women thrive on those things, right? So sometimes you want the touch, you want the hug. I don't necessarily want anything sexual. I just want to know that you are there. I want you to listen to me. The other thing is, women sometimes expect men to read their minds. And I tell my sisters,
that
men
right?
are not mind readers. Yes.
I thought it was the other way around,
no,
actually.
I want, I want
You piqued my
something.
interest, yeah.
I want something. So I ask you, you're going down the road, you're passing the shop, but I want something. But I don't necessarily tell you, or I tell you, that chocolate bar in there looking real nice. I want it, but I didn't say it to you. And then I get upset because you didn't buy the chocolate bar. But I say to my sisters, one of the things that we have to learn if we're going to enhance this communication is to say what we want.
Right.
Not just talk, but say exactly what it is we want and what exactly it is that we're looking for in terms of our men. But also to understand that although the men don't like to talk a lot, if we time when we talk to them, then we may get better results.
Wow.
So for
That'd be
instance, if a man comes home tired, had a hard day, when he comes through the door, you don't want to hit him with a barrage of talk.
Right.
You want to make sure he sits down. You want to make sure he has something to eat. You want to make sure he's comfortable. Get a little rest. And when he's finished, then you can talk.
Okay.
Because he may be more likely
You
to
said
listen.
that men don't talk much, women talk too much. No.
Well, not too. No.
You didn't say that?
No.
I mean,
I say women speak a lot. I didn't say too much.
Well,
Because
men interpreted that. You interpret men's silence as he doesn't speak too much, even though he may be speaking and you're not hearing. But the fact is,
well,
how
see,
do
communication
we
is not
compromise?
necessarily just in. Communication is not necessarily just in terms of words. One of the things that we have to understand as couples and as the opposite sex, not necessarily couples, but even as we relate to opposite sex, is that differences are there and differences don't have to divide.
Right.
Because there's unity in diversity.
Good.
If all of us were talking a lot, then can you imagine what would happen?
And
Or if both of us were silent,
Have mercy.
can you imagine what
Right.
would happen?
Good.
So it means, therefore, that we have to appreciate our
Right.
differences, but also be prepared to make compromises.
Beautiful.
And compromises are critical in terms of building relationship. So even though I don't feel like talking, I know talking is important to you. So I'm going to take some time,
Good.
and I'm going to show interest in what you have interest in. So I know nothing about football and cricket, but it interests you. So therefore, I'm going to learn something, and even though I know it's just a score, I can cheer.
Just a score.
Just a ball going in the thing. That's all I understand.
You're not thinking like a man. It's not just a score. It depends on who's
Good.
playing.
Right, but the bottom line is I take my cues from you, and if you cheer, I cheer, even though I don't know what I'm cheering for. I'm showing you the support. So,
Definitely. Okay, great. Well, let's deal with the negative side of women. And from your perspective, what in your mind or in your view is a poor role model? Female, that is. What don't you like to see females do?
For me, what stands out in the mother-child relationship and that dynamic is when I see a mother using expletives towards a very little child. Now, I know that parenting, let's say being a mother, and today we know we have a large number of single mothers, so that it can be stressful. So even though patience is key,
Right.
it's something that may be lacking. I don't see that resorting to using expletives or
Right.
harsh language towards a little baby who is looking towards you
Sure.
for understanding, nurturing, and protection.
Sure.
I don't see that using expletives towards a child is a solution.
Right.
And I have a very low tolerance for that. So for me, a mother exhibiting that is a very poor role model.
Any person for that matter. But I hear you and I'm happy for
I
your
don't like to
tolerance for
see
that.
women disrespect their males. For example, you may have a couple and they may be walking the street, so they may see a friend and she comes and she asks a question and the woman will take over the show. No, he don't know, no, don't ask him. Just so and so, that kind of thing.
Right.
I think women must remember that they need to be respectful to men and remember that men have an ego. As I said, I heard that you must strike the ego.
Stroke it.
Stroke the ego,
Stroke it.
right?
Not strike it, sister.
Sorry,
Stroke it.
stroke.
Careful.
Massage.
Someone to strike it there, but you stroke it.
Massage the ego,
Right.
and you can get them to do what you want. So do you have to respect your man? You can't disrespect him. If you're in a public area, you must give him the respect that is due to
Right.
him. And so I don't like to see women being disrespectful to their men.
What about you, Abby?
Women who dress in a manner that's not becoming of a lady, women who carry themselves in a raucous manner. A woman should be a lady.
Okay.
A woman who flirts with other men in the presence of of her significant other. And even though I may say in the presence of, I mean also when the person is not there. Carry yourself as though you know that you belong to somebody. And if there's a situation where you may think it's okay, ask yourself, how would I feel if I found out that my significant other was doing what I am doing now?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so for me, a poor role model is a woman who doesn't understand her position in terms of a relationship and doesn't carry herself as such. And by that I mean flirting with other men.
Good. Let's move to the positive side. The Bible did say that God made women as helpmeet, or at least Eve was the example for all women. What does that mean to you as a woman?
You know, when I think about a helpmeet, I think about a line, a dashed or a broken line. And to me, the helpmeet is when that woman comes in and she fills those spaces to make it one solid line.
Mm-hmm.
It seems highly philosophical.
Well, yes,
all right?
it is, but
so
I
that
understand
understanding a man by himself, there may be weaknesses, or there may be patches patches or areas where he is not able to fully bring the line together. That is where the woman comes in. So he has his strength may not be, for example, in budgeting.
Right.
And you being a banker and an accountant, you step in there, and where your strength is, you apply to his weakness and make one solid line.
Good.
All right, so it's in essence filling in where your significant other is lacking.
Good. Good.
Of course, without making him feel less of a man.
Is it true that a woman can make or break a man? Or is that just old talk?
Yes, that is true.
It is true?
Because
Okay.
yes, I have seen it where if a woman treats a man a particular way, in a negative way, the man tends to behave and act out that way. But if the woman, on the other hand, tends to be supportive, encouraging, that man could really realize his fullest potential because of her initiative that she takes to encourage him and push him in the right direction.
Okay. How does she go about, what some of the things she can do to help him be all that God wants him to be, seeing that she's here as a helpmeet?
Okay, as a helpmeet, I look at it as complementing the partner, as being supportive and complementing. So let's look at the fact that we are told that men are supposed to be the priests of the home.
Right.
But you may have, in a relationship, there may be a man who is not, he may be shy, let's say shy, or not able, haven't been able to take over that role. You may notice that you may have to leave earlier in the morning, so you get up earlier.
Right.
But just the mere fact that you get up, you call the family together, you encourage them, okay, let's have worship together. And you may know that he is able to do certain things better than you can, or he will be able to pull the family in a certain area better. So you encourage him to do what he's best at. And being supportive and such like brings it together. So you have the helpmeet, you have the complement, and you get the man to be what God would have him to be.
I don't know how many of you have sons, but and sons that have not yet reached the age of dating. But even if you do, how would you advise a parent, or what advice would you give to a parent who has a son and is thinking of dating a woman? What would you tell that son about a woman before he starts dating?
The thing is, I don't have a son. I have two daughters. But in speaking to women, what I tell them is, your son is going to marry my daughter one day. So ensure that you train him well so that he can make my daughter. Of course.
Okay.
I tell women that, make sure that you bring up your son in such a way that if he had to marry your daughter, he would be the kind of husband that you would want your daughter to have.
I want to say, I have a son. And
what age is he?
My son will be 23 in November.
He is married yet?
Not as yet.
Oh, okay.
Not as yet. He still has time.
Oh, okay.
He still has some time. But one of the things that I train my son to do is the ability to do things in the house.
Right.
Right? Yes, I do believe that a woman has, and I like Proverbs 31 in terms of the virtuous woman.
Right.
I do believe that the woman is still queen of her home, but we live in a society where both parties work.
Right.
And so my son can cook, my son can wash, my son can clean. And my son is taught to respect women. My son is taught that women are not to be abused, whether verbally, emotionally, or physically. You need to respect a woman, you need to love a woman, and you need to be able to care. But my son is also taught that you need to get education or skill so that you can provide for a family when you get a family. And provision is not just physical, the physical means, but provision also from a psychological standpoint.
Beautiful.
And to make sure that you constantly take your family to the throne of God.
Beautiful, beautiful. We have a few minutes to wrap up. There's one thing I suppose you'll want all men to know about a woman. The title of this program is Think Like a Woman. This is your message to some men who are watching, not the man necessarily to whom you're married, but generally speaking, what is that one thing you'll want all men to know about women? Let's start with you again, Sheila.
Ooh, hard question. All right. It's okay to listen. And even though you may not have anything to add, just listen. I understand the issue of the nothing box.
Okay. There you go. Abby.
Women need men to listen and pay attention, just like Zarelli was saying. When a woman is speaking to a man, please turn off the television, and even though you're not listening, appear as though you're listening.
There you go. Yes, Julie.
I am emotional, and I love to be loved. So
Have
just
mercy.
love me.
Have mercy. Yes, Munel.
In spite of the tough exterior, because we are professional women, we have to fulfill roles as bosses and managers and so on in our daily lives. I think when we get home, we let down that facade and we show you who we are. So it's just a matter of loving and really securing us and giving us that affection, so that when we go back out to face the world, we've already been re-energized and ready to go.
Beautiful. Bring it home for us, Munel.
Faithfulness is critical in any relationship.
Right.
Remember that as men, you are models for your daughters, you're models for your sons, and they will live what they see you doing, the life they see you living, and so that's critical. But in anything, make sure that you remain connected to God, because if you can love God and if you can be faithful to God, then you'll be faithful to me.
Beautiful. Thank you. What a great way to end. I think it's safe to say that while women need to feel loved, men need to feel needed. And we have some women here who are women of virtue and of character. And I'm happy that you took the time to share with us. And I'm sure you're going to have a great time when you go back home to your husband today. We have been talking about thinking like a woman. Of course, in life, there are some Mrs. Potiphar or pot of fire, but there are also some Esthers. The Bible says their price is far above rubies. If you're thinking like a woman, make sure you find a man who has expensive character, and God will be honored in your life. Thank you for joining us today. We look forward to having you once again on JC247.